Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more relationship stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Let's crack on with today's first story, which comes from a throwaway account and says, "Today I messed up by stalking my husband's Reddit account." Using a throwaway because he probably knows my main and I don't want him to know I know yet. This also technically started a few days ago, but it's been stuck in my head since, and I need to get my thoughts out. When we met and the entire 3 years we dated before we were married, I was always firm about not wanting kids. My husband told me that his stance on kids was along the lines of kind of undecided, but overall not a good idea. Always said he used to want kids but changed his mind later in life. I wholeheartedly believed him until I decided to snoop. We're both pretty avid Reddit users and he wanted to brag to me about how many upvotes one of his comments had. I watched him as he clicked on his profile to find it, and I caught his username and a glimpse of another comment where it looked like he was talking about me. We never tried hiding each other's accounts from one another, but it's not like his was a secret. But I still feel a little bad for letting curiosity get the best of me. I looked up his username later in the day to check out what he had to say about me. To his credit, he was gushing about me and it was really sweet. But quite a few of his other comments also talked about how he wishes he could have had children of his own, and that the only thing stopping him is me. Talks about how his desire to be with me outmatches his desire to have kids, but he's still heartbroken that he can't have both. I still don't know what to make of it. On the one hand, I'm hurt that in almost the 10 years we've been together, he's never talked to me about this and instead lied to me to make it seem like we're on the same page. I feel immense guilt that I've taken such a choice away from him, especially after reading about just how badly he wants it. On the other hand, and I can't believe I'm about to type this out, it's making me rethink my stance. For the first time in my 32 years of existence, I'm uncertain about whether I want kids or not. I've always thought pregnancy and birth sounds like a nightmare, and I simply don't have the mental bandwidth to devote all my time to raising a child. But suddenly, I'm having daydreams about it all. Hell, just last night I fell asleep while fantasizing about what would happen if my birth control failed, and we decided to just roll with it instead of getting an abortion. Every argument I try to come up with against it is easily refuted by how our life is currently going. We own our house, we both have good jobs that pay well, and I work from home on my own schedule, so we wouldn't have to worry about daycare or extended maternity leave. The fact that I'm even reconsidering it is absolutely terrifying. What if I think on it for another year, decide to go for it, then regret it? What if I'm only thinking about it now because I want to make him happy? What if I decide to ignore these thoughts and later regret not trying before we got too old? What if he thinks he wants me now but later resents me for not letting him live the life he always wanted? Anyway, this got much longer than I thought it would be. I'm using this sub instead of something like r/confessions because I do consider this a fuck up. I regret looking into his Reddit account. I wish I could go back to a few days ago where this wasn't on my mind and I thought things were going great between us. I'm sorry if this isn't as interesting as "Today I messed up by sleeping with someone's mum" or whatever usually gets popular. I just needed to get this all off my chest. Edit. I was not expecting this post to blow up as much as it has. I'm sorry I haven't responded to many people, but I promise I've read almost every comment. I was going to sit on it for a few more days before saying anything to him, but everyone calling me out for essentially being a pussy is making me realize I should just talk to him tonight before I let my weird anxiety blow it more out of proportion than it already has. I still haven't decided whether to bring up how my views have changed regarding children, as I don't want to get his hopes up if I change my mind back. I'll see how the conversation goes. To address a few things I've seen mentioned by you guys. Don't worry, I'm not throwing out my birth control tonight and jumping straight to baby making. I'm honestly still leaning more into the not having any kids side, and if my mind changes more, it's still not happening until we both want one without a shadow of a doubt. The just talk to him, communicate. I appreciate the concern, but keeping it to myself forever was never an option for me. Our communication is usually fantastic, and I'm planning on sitting down with him. I was just panicking a bit while writing this and wasn't sure the when, how, and what all I'd like to share with him. And the "why do you think doing the same thing he did will solve your problems?" And it says, you know what, you got me there. I'll probably show him this post eventually anyway, so I'm not sure how much water these comments hold. You may be right that I shouldn't have shared this with strangers on the internet. I will say though, I kinda get why people do it now. To quote one of my own comments, it's like having a sea of little angels and devils on your shoulders, which to be honest is a little cool and almost cathartic. I'll update tomorrow morning if anyone is interested. Is it better to edit the post or make a new one? I'm unfamiliar with this subreddit, but otherwise thank you all for your help. For the hate Reddit gets for being toxic and negative, all of you have had either very insightful advice or were very funny to hear from. I don't think there's very much I can really say to this post apart from that you have to communicate, and you've already answered that yourself and you're going to by the sounds of it. And in the comments, Cake or Death says, the only wrong move here is to do nothing. There is nothing wrong with changing your mind. Stop thinking about only yourself as being only the person you were for the 32 years. You are allowed to grow and evolve and change your mind. It's one of the beautiful things about growing up. It's cliche, but it's true. Couples that don't grow together will instead grow apart, but that means that both of you have and will continue to grow, and that could include you growing into wanting children. Have the conversation with him, be open-minded, but also be prepared to understand yourself as an individual and as part of a couple. Even better, and maybe learn that you do not in fact want kids, but he more and more does. And be prepared to accept the consequences of that. But don't just keep it inside and let it fuck with your head without doing something about it. Printman says, I wouldn't call what he did lying to make it seem like you guys are on the same page. To me it seems like he buried his feelings to protect what he has with you. Maybe not the best idea, but it's worth something as far as your relationship goes. You both still need to talk about this obviously, but I don't think he was being nefarious in any way. Save the Husky says, I will let everyone else address the just talk to him stuff. I want to address how you are feeling yourself. You're not the same person you are today as you were even yesterday. People grow and change and that's okay. From my perspective, what it is or it's not worth, I was like you, solidly against having kids. Didn't have the time nor patience for them. Wanted a life that was me doing what I wanted, whenever I wanted, and someone that could go along with that. Absolutely steadfastly refused to date anyone with kids. Then met someone volunteering in a solidly not dating environment. Life changed and we found ourselves in a dating situation. He had 2 beautiful daughters, but I knew I wanted him, so I said let's give it a try. Happily I learned how to be a stepmom and how to love his kids as if they were my own. Then this thought crept into my mind and wouldn't leave. What about my own? Now we have a rambunctious, adorable, precocious 4-year-old boy who adores his sisters and they adore him. Would I be okay not having him? Yes, I think my life would have been fulfilled, living how I wanted. But I am so thankful I did. My husband was fine with his girls, but happy to have another. He let me drive that ship from day one. I think one of our purposes as humans is to live and grow. It doesn't surprise me that you are changing, maybe being more open to something you once weren't. But put some soul searching and time into it and have an open and honest communication with yourself and your husband. I just want you to know that change is okay. The OP does come in to update their post and says, hi again guys, a few of you asked for an update. I hope it's okay I made a new post rather than edit my original or try to cram it into a comment as my original was getting a bit long and messy, and this update is also pretty long. I was not expecting my story to be interesting enough to get such an insane amount of attention. I'm a tad embarrassed my inner thoughts had so many eyes on it. But the secret little egocentric in me thanked you all for my 15 minutes of fame, lol. I'll put a TLDR at the bottom. But the gist of this update is my husband is an incredible partner and human being, and I'm an idiot who holds on to my big ball of anxiety for no real reason. Almost all your replies were very sweet and supportive. I didn't respond to most of them, but I read them all, but it didn't stop me from feeling super nervous about confronting him. It's hard to explain, but I get a little overly stressed about things that aren't as big of a deal as I make them. I've been wanting to get checked out for whatever anxiety disorder I probably have, but just haven't gotten around to it. I was hoping to let him decompress when he got home from work before I brought the topic up. But he knows I overly deep clean when I get nervous, so when he walked through the door and saw me taking a toothbrush to our oven, he knew something was up and asked about it. Obviously, I didn't take notes on exactly what was said, but I'll do my best to paraphrase. I started out by saying, don't freak out, this isn't anything super serious, it's just me being classic Jane. I then went on to explain that I was extremely sorry for invading his privacy, but that I looked up his account and read some of his comments and he interrupted me by laughing. He didn't just laugh, this motherfucker, said with love, I'm not actually mad, saw what a wreck I was and had the audacity to guffaw loud enough to startle me. He then said, so that was you. You guys were right. He found my original post. I feel silly for thinking he wouldn't, but I figured it wouldn't get as popular as it did, and between him spending most of the day at work instead of on Reddit, and saying he wasn't a fan of subreddits like these, that he would somehow miss it. In my defense, I had changed enough details about our lives that he wasn't totally sure until I told him I found his account. But yeah, he had his suspicions. He sat me down at this point and basically said, "I know you well enough to know you don't actually want kids. This is just a phase." I won't go into details because it's pretty personal, but he presented his arguments for why he thinks that he's 100% right. He then followed up with, "I don't think you interpreted what I wrote correctly." He doesn't want to share his account with everyone, so I won't copy and paste the comment, but when he wrote that he loved me more than he wanted kids, he didn't mean giving up that life just to make me happy. He meant that being with me completely changed his outlook. Us being together meant that we could travel anywhere we want together, have romantic dates where we stay out as late as we want, get freaky until 4 AM without worrying about being too loud or having to wake up a few hours later to get our child crying for breakfast. He realized he didn't want kids when he married me because he didn't want to share our life together with anyone else. When I asked him why he said he felt heartbroken that he couldn't have both, he explained that he didn't articulate that comment very well. He wasn't necessarily heartbroken that he could never have children of his own, but rather he was grieving the loss of his imaginary children and a mentality he held on to for his entire life, up until he changed his mind. Imagine it felt a little bit like my freak out in the original post where I was scared and confused by my own change of heart, but on a bigger scale over a longer period of time. That one's a little tricky to paraphrase and may not make sense to some people, but the way I explained it made complete sense, I swear. Lol. Anyway, everything went smoothly and we decided by the end of our conversation to stick with having no kids, but we'll regularly check in with each other about it in case we ever change our minds. And it's another story where communication wins the day again, and it's gotta be said, I love to see it every once in a while. We get so much drama. To see a healthy couple, it's quite refreshing sometimes. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. And our next story comes from Colossal Screw Up. And before we do get into this story, I do want to give you a warning. It does contain homophobia, so if you do want to skip the story, please feel free to do so. Timestamps are always down in the description and along the timeline below. Thank you. And it's titled, "Would I be the arsehole if I wear a Halloween costume that makes my friend's partner uncomfortable?" Also, just to mention at the same time, this is a story that was suggested to me. It's from a couple of years back, and I think it was around the pandemic sort of time. So it starts off. "Hey Reddit peeps, I really need some help here. My 21 male boyfriend Alex, 23, absolutely loves Halloween. Our whole friend group loves the holiday and we make a point to have a Halloween party every year. We're sad that we can't have our usual party this year, but we're still planning on having a little Halloween party thing on Zoom, so we still have an excuse to dress up and get drunk together. Anyway, our friend Sasha has been dating a guy, let's call him David, for about a year now. We didn't have many complaints about David. He's pleasant enough to us, excluding a couple of slightly homophobic comments, which he apologized for after he found out Alex and I were a couple. And most importantly, he makes Sasha happy. However, when we were talking about costumes on call the other day, things got a little weird. Our friend group consists of 5 girls and 3 guys. We're all pretty big AHS, which I think is American Horror Story fans, and the girls all decided that they were going to go as witches from Coven. Their costumes are absolutely stunning. Alex and I are planning on dressing as Michael Langdon and Mr. Gallant. Anyways, we asked David about his costume and he told us he'd actually planned for the 3 of us to go as Ross, Joey and Chandler from Friends. Now, I love me some Friends, but Alex and I have already bought most of the pieces for our costumes. We don't really want to change it at this point. We told him as much and apologized. If he asked us earlier, we would have most likely agreed to this. He left the chat about 10 minutes later, but nothing really seemed off. Until he texted me later in the day. He told me that he was uncomfortable with us going as Michael and Gallant, as they often get shipped together and are most likely fairies. David told us he was uncomfortable with us flaunting our sexuality at every chance we got, and that it was making him uncomfortable. We apparently ruined Harry Potter for him when we dressed up as Remus and Sirius last year. Anyway, David is still insistent on us changing our costume. We've also been accused of trying to isolate him as he isn't too into American Horror Story. He can dress up as literally anything he wants, there's no rules. I really don't want to make anyone uncomfortable and I don't want David to feel like he's unwelcome, but Alex and I were really excited about our costumes this year. I know this seems like a stupid thing to be worried about, but we don't want to cause trouble for Sasha, as she really likes David, and we don't want her getting caught in the middle of some stupid argument over a goddamn Halloween costume. I feel awful if we were the reason that they started to have problems in their relationship. Would I be the arsehole? Edit. Okay, I did not expect this to get so many replies. Thank you so much to everyone who commented and offered advice, I really appreciate it. Oh, and just quickly, AHS stands for American Horror Story. My stupid ass thought I'd already written that, sorry. I've seen a few people asking if Sasha knows about David's behaviour. She doesn't. Well, didn't. Not long after they started dating, David made a few comments about being against gay marriage, and knowing full well that Alex and I hope to get married someday, Sasha blew up at him. She was disgusted that he'd think like that, and she almost left him after that incident. We felt awful for her, as she really did like David, and he kept making promises to her that it wouldn't happen again, and apologised profusely. Sasha made David apologise to us and asked Alex if I would be okay speaking to him again, and believing it was a one-off occurrence, we said sure. He made Sasha really happy after all, and she'd never stay with him if we weren't comfortable being around him. We kept the homophobic jokes to ourselves, but told him that they were homophobic. To his credit, he did apologise, though it was most likely not sincere. We told Sasha about this whole situation about an hour ago, and sent her screenshots of the conversation. She was disgusted, and we heard a good 5 minutes of their argument before Sasha apologised and told us she'd call us when she had dealt with him. We've had a text from Sasha apologising for all of this, but it's not her fault. We're starting the comments with Dem, who says, okay, this really winds me up. How is he going to enter a friendship group and expect everyone to just bend to his idealised notion of what the world is? No. It's lovely that you guys are a couple, but that doesn't mean your characters are a couple. How homophobic do you have to be that your masculinity is that shaken? Seriously, would you guys be shipping characters if one of you went as Baby Shark and the other went as a fucking convict? The whole thing is ridiculous. If he wanted to coordinate outfits, he should have asked sooner. The group doesn't revolve around him, and Sasha should be having a word with him about alienating himself from the group. I'm not pulling the victim card bullshit. Not the arsehole, you coordinated outfits in your existing friendship group for an existing tradition, and someone's partner's masculinity and ego is threatened because of it, so therefore is playing victim. He needs to grow up. Opie says you make a good point there. We chose the characters because we like the characters, not because they get shipped. Mr. Gallant is a sassy bitch and I love him for it. Also, Sasha doesn't know about the conversation yet. She flipped out at him at the start of their relationship as he made a comment about how gay marriage shouldn't be allowed before he knew we were gay. So I know she wouldn't be happy about this. Thanks. But around a month or so later, Opie updated the post and says, I was going to post this a few days ago, but my professor decided to dump about 1 million projects on us at once, so it had to wait a little bit. Alex and I took the advice of you lovely people and talked to Sasha about David's behaviour. We even sent her some screenshots. She went absolutely apeshit at him. Long story short, she broke up with him. This is where the story should end, but David is apparently a bit of a petty arsehole. We did originally only plan to have a small Zoom party with a couple of friends, but some mutual friends and people from some of our classes had asked if they could join. About 15 people all in. We're okay with this and decided to just have a larger Zoom party with them for a little bit, then leave and have a call with just our small, close-knit friend group. People we don't mind getting completely trashed with. We informed everyone of this and everything was going great. Until it wasn't. David is roommates with a mutual friend, Ryan, and is friends with a few people in our mutual friend group. So we decided he was going to join in with the festivities, knowingly making Sasha very uncomfortable. He made a few passing comments about how he left Sasha because she's a homophobic slur and kept asking her if they could call him private. He got shut down pretty quickly. Ryan is not one for that kind of drama, so he told David to get a grip. It made the whole thing pretty awkward to say the least. About an hour or so into this mess, Ryan shuts off his camera and mutes his mic. He and David were using the same computer. Yet another comment from David. When he turned the camera and mic back on, David was sulking beside him, just generally looking like a scolded child. Alex and I decided to mess around with him. Yes, it was petty. No, we do not regret it. We started dropping in some American Horror Story lines whenever we could, e.g., so you like leather? I like a lot of things. Any sort of suggestive dialogue we could think of between Michael and Gallant, not a massive amount to work with, but you know. We could see David was practically biting his tongue to not say anything. Eventually, after a whip comment from Alex, he left. Ryan just shook his head and laughed it off. Everyone else found it pretty amusing, and myself and Alex were pretty pleased with ourselves. The rest of the night was a hell of a lot better. David actually tried to contact Sasha a few days ago, but Sasha's dad was pretty quick to intervene. He's a big guy and I wouldn't want to piss him off. Long story short, David is out of all our lives now and Sasha is looking a lot happier. I know this probably isn't an update that anyone wants, but I wanted to post it anyways. Edit. Shit, I did it again. AHS stands for American Horror Story Guys. Sorry, my bad. I keep forgetting to add it. Also, just want to say thank you to everyone for your kind comments and awards. Now, apart from letting him get away with it one too many times and not cutting his shit off earlier, absolutely the right way you went about it and having him cut out of your life completely because Jesus, that guy, man, he's a right arsehole, isn't he? But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.